want to talk about a dirty word. It starts with the letter F, and we see it at work. What do you think it is? It's feedback. Get your mind out of the gutter. Hi, my name's Irina. I've been in leadership for about 20 years, and today I'd like to tackle the topic of feedback. Now, feedback, a lot of times when leaders hear this word or employees hear this word, they start shaking because feedback has historically been associated, unfortunately, with a negative connotation. I'm personally not quite sure why. Without feedback, we can't grow, we can't improve, but that's just the way things are. So let's talk about feedback and what it can and cannot do, and what we should be doing as leaders to help our teams enhance their performance by providing feedback. So, three things that feedback should be is consistent, clear, and it should definitely have measurable outcomes that you're looking for. Now, it shouldn't be inconsistent, it should not be vague, and it shouldn't cause the other person to walk away from the table not understanding what's expected of them. So let's dive a little bit into that. Now, I'm a big proponent of weekly meetings so that we can keep a finger on the pulse together and understand what the performance is and what things should, if any, be changed. Feedback, in my opinion, is something that should include what the person is doing well and what they need to build on. Okay, it's not about it is a beat up session. I'm going to tell you how bad you are. I'm going to tell you how wrong you've been doing things, and you better improve or else. A feedback session really should be a dialogue. And so I'm a big proponent again of weekly meetings. They're scheduled in advance. People know when it's coming. It's not a surprise. They're not getting all nervous about it. It's on their calendar. And they also have the opportunity to prepare for that feedback session because, it should be a dialogue. It's not just a one-way street where I'm just pointing out all the things. 1, 2, 3, look at all the things you're doing wrong. It really should be, okay, let's see how you've done for the past week and what possibly needs to be changed. So being consistent is very important. You have to be predictable as a leader because that gives people more peace of mind so they don't feel caught off guard when a meeting pops on their calendar. It's very important that we give people the opportunity to prepare for these meetings and they know why you're meeting every Thursday at 2 p.m. versus, oh man, I have a meeting for tomorrow at 12. What is it about? What am I going to do? We don't want to create that anxiety in our people. So during the feedback session, first of all, it should always be private outside of earshot. If you're in an office setting, don't have feedback sessions on the floor. I have seen this before and I just cringe, okay? Especially when you're asking that person to make some corrections or you're at a point where you've been coaching them for a while and they're not really improving and now you have to have more of a difficult conversation with them. If you're doing that on the floor in an office setting, that's just a big no-no. That's leadership 101. Take your people off the floor. Go have a private session. Give them that respect. So, first of all, make it private, right? Secondly, come prepared. You have to come prepared with factual information. This isn't about the person. This is about their performance. And there's a very big difference because you're not attacking their character or their personality traits. You're here to discuss performance, which is like a third party entity, and that's what you should be focusing on. Okay, so come prepared, make it private, come prepared, and definitely have a plan that you're going to present to this person that you're going to be supporting them through. Give them the opportunity to speak. They should have an opportunity to challenge some of your opinions. If you're saying, hey, look, based on your numbers, I'm seeing that you're just not efficient enough when you're answering phone calls for our customers, and that needs to improve. That's, first of all, that's too vague. What needs to improve? What are you talking about? Can you tell me more? And it's going to make that person defensive, rightfully so. So make sure that it's a very neutral type conversation where you're looking to have an actual dialogue and get their feedback as well. Feedback is a two-way street. It's not you telling people again how bad they are and just like, oh my god, fix it or I'll fire you. Definitely don't do that. So let's talk about what feedback should look like. Well, before we jump into that, let's stick with the fuzzy feedback first. So if you meet with Jane and you say, Jane, again, you're just not answering calls fast enough and your efficiency is hurting and our customer calls are getting dropped and you just need to do better. Okay, can you do better? Can you keep an eye on that? How is Jane gonna do better? She thought she was doing a good job. So what exactly have you provided her with that you're gonna help her improve her performance? Nothing. The answer is nothing. You've just created a bunch of confusion, probably hurt her feelings. She's probably defensive. She's going to go back on the phones and start bitching at her employee or, peers. And it's just going to be an all around bad situation. So the way I would address it would be, hey, Jane, thank you for meeting with me. Hey, I just want to talk to you a little bit about last week. It looks like you had 10 calls that were dropped, and let's look at the dates together and the time frames. And so, can you tell me a little bit about what you think was going on? Because usually you don't drop calls, and this seems like a pretty high number. Tell me a little bit about what you think was happening. That invites Jane to solve the problem with you, to kind of talk through it together versus you making some sort of assumption and saying, hey, you dropped calls because you were going on break or you were chatting with your peer and you were making jokes and you forgot to answer the phone, right? Very, very different approach, and your message is going to be received very differently. So let's assume that Jane has some sort of feedback or insight and says, she's genuine and she says, hey, look, I was kind of distracted. I get it. I dropped calls. This is your chance to really thank her for the honesty. Again, it's a dialogue. Hey, okay, thank you so much for stepping up and acknowledging that. This needs to change though, Jane, right? I appreciate you being honest and transparent, but we cannot have dropped calls. Our customers depend on us as an organization. They signed up for a product, and we're here to support that product. That's our job. So we cannot afford to have 10 drop calls, because if you multiply that by X amount of employees that we have here, how many calls do you think we're dropping in a day? Right? So again, by kind of giving them the little mental gymnastics, people start understanding how their behavior, it has ripple effects and impacts other people or the organization as a whole. So the conversation really should be, going forward, I expect that you have no more than one drop call per week. Okay, it could happen that maybe there's a glitch in the system or you forget to put your headset on, but more than one is just not acceptable. Do you agree? And you need to get that verbal commitment before you walk out of that conversation, because that means they're going to go and pay attention to it, right? They've just agreed to something, they've committed to something. Generally, psychologically, we're going to follow through on our promises, and hopefully Jane does. So the next time you meet with Jane would be a great opportunity, if she did make improvements, to give her, guess what, more feedback. Hey, Jane, so the last time we met last week, you had 10 drop calls, and I asked that you pay close attention and you make sure that you answer your calls. And I'm really happy to report that you have no calls, zero, that you've dropped over the last week. So really, I really appreciate you taking the time and paying attention and focusing on not dropping calls going forward. Thank you so much. So this is where Jane is going to feel really good about what she's doing, and she's going to understand what behavior she needs to replicate. Okay, the feedback is a follow through. It's not a silver bullet, one and done. We're going to talk about it one time and then it's just going to fix itself, or you're going to fix it and that's it. And one thing that I'm very big on in feedback sessions that I want to mention is the we versus you and I debate that I've seen happen across a whole different types of leadership roles that I've worked with in the past. And I see a lot of people vote for the we, use the word we, and that, implies partnership, which I can understand to a certain extent. But if you're in a feedback session and you're saying we over and over, then how is the other person supposed to know what's expected of them and what's expected of you, since it's we? Like, I am not going to be there with Jane picking up the phone. Jane is going to be picking up the phone. So this is not a we situation. This is a, you need to go pick up the phone and I'm going to go do whatever I'm responsible to go do. So this is what I expect out of you. That's why we're having this conversation. And I know that may be an unpopular idea, but I have definitely seen it create confusion where I've taken that advice in the past, in past roles, and I use the word we in feedback sessions. And then by the time I met with that employee again, they were just confused. Like, well, I didn't really understand what you wanted me to do. You said we're going to do this. So it really blew up in my face because the person had a point. If we're saying we, are we going to do it together? Like, aren't you going to help me? Right? So for me, that was lesson learned. And I definitely make a very clear delineation between you and what you're going to do and what I'm going to do. So with Jane, right, you're going to answer the phone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you daily reports so that you can see how you're progressing between now and the next time we meet next week. And that'll keep you on track. That'll give you the data you need so you can understand whether you're on track or not. So your responsibility is going to be answer the phone, make sure no calls are dropped, service our customers. My responsibility is going to be providing you with that information so that you can understand whether you're on track or not. And if you're not, make the corrections as needed before 7 days pass. Right? So that's one way to look at it. But I know it's an unpopular opinion. I'm just not a very big we fan. That does have its role depending on if you're working on a project together as a team. But even then, yeah, like, yes, we're going to get it done together as a team. However, you have 5 people working on that project on a team. You're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this, right? So everyone's there's still a you in there. There's still going to be an individual, type of responsibility. And then each individual is going to contribute to that common goal, to that team goal, that we goal. So that's feedback in a nutshell for me. Make sure it's clear, it's on time, and it actually has measurable outcomes. Otherwise, you could face a lot of confusion and just low morale. People are not going to understand what you expect out of them. They're going to get frustrated. And in my experience, people genuinely want to do a good job. They genuinely want to make improvements. They just don't know how. So really, it's your job as a leader to show them the way and show them the blueprint and give them that blueprint. And you can't do that if you're confusing, if you're afraid of giving feedback, if you are, just making vague statements of, yeah, just do better. Do better is very different than make sure you change X, Y, Z by this date. Very, very different. So let me know what you guys think. Please comment below. I'd love to hear about your experiences. Tell me especially about the we versus you and me. I'm very curious about that because it's just such a hot debate. I've seen it be such a hot debate over the years, and I'm just genuinely interested to hear other opinions. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and liking, and I hope you have a phenomenal day.